Hey everybody, welcome back to Florida Stacker on YouTube, and thank you for all of your support this year. Happy Thanksgiving if I haven't told you already. Now, today's video is a podcast style video with the CEO of Wealth Research Group and fellow Goldbug, Lior Gantz. Lior lives in Israel, and this is the first of two videos I'll release of our interview where Lior gives us an update on the situation on the ground in Israel, and he includes his thoughts and viewpoints on why this conflict started and how it will ultimately end. In the second video of our interview, link in the comment section, Lior discusses the latest jobs report, gold and silver spot price, also a sector in our industry that he feels is primed for upcoming success, that and much, much more. Now, let's get started with part one. This is a podcast style video, so you can set your phone down, set your tablet down, connect the Bluetooth, and enjoy the listen. Hey everybody, welcome back to Florida Stacker on YouTube. I have my friend Lior Gantz back with us today. Actually, we're looking at gold spot price right now. $1,997.50 is what I see. We could see $2,000 gold spot price during this conversation we're about to have. So how you doing, Lior?
Doing good.
Well, welcome back to the show. I did want to obviously start out with you live in Israel. Can you talk to us a little bit about what's going on in Israel? I mean, we kind of see the news, but from your perspective, how are things in Israel right now?
Yeah, historically, just to give context, I was born in 1984. So when I was seven or six and a half, Desert Storm happened here in the Middle East, and for about 2-3 months, every day I went to the shelter with a real mask on for the chemical threat from Iraq. So that was like my first big war. But that coincided with the fall of the Soviet Union. And we basically had a situation where all of the USSR proxies in the Middle East immediately got weaker. And two politicians here in Israel that had a vision called the New Middle East. One of them is the late Simon Peres, who died like a few years ago. And the other one was Isaac Rabin, who was the prime minister. And he was assassinated. The only assassination we've had in our country. He was assassinated by a Jewish person 5 minutes away from where I'm speaking to you right now in a peace rally over what's called the Oslo Accords, which were signed in Camp David with President Bill Clinton, Isaac Rabin, and Yasser Arafat. And the Oslo Accords were part of normalization with Jordan, which is a peace treaty that we have. Jordan is on our border, on our eastern border. And then Yasser Arafat started a terrorist organization called the PLO in 1964. And it grew and grew and became almost like a national movement, just like other. So it became national, and it got legitimized in the Oslo Accords, and that's how Israel went into this new stage from 1993 onwards, where we're dealing with what's called a Palestinian Authority. Right. Now, in 2005, we, under the leadership of Ariel Sharon, the late Ariel Sharon, who was a very big Israeli general, and then a prime minister. In his time, he said, let's voluntarily take all of our settlements from the Gaza Strip. Those were called Gush Katif, and let's take them out, which was at a great national cost to us. It was it really shattered the country in two, like those in pro and those against. But the idea was, you give the Palestinian Authority 100% control over the Gaza Strip. They have access to the open to the Mediterranean with funding from the U.S., the UN, the EU, Qatar, and from us. They will build a Singapore, and we will all live happily ever after. So that was the conception,
the vision.
Now that was the vision. Now for those who understand the vision fully, the idea was that the Palestinian Authority would rule over the Gaza Strip. They had an election in 2007, so 2 years after,
Right.
and Hamas terrorist organization took 65% of the vote. And that's when that conception failed. But instead of realizing that right then and there, plucking those weeds immediately, we diplomatically tried to create an arrangement that works for both sides, and it just continued failing from 2007 onwards. And this was the culmination, just the worst ever result that can happen. So on the 7th of October, we had to recalibrate. The entire world has to recalibrate what this means, what the Middle East would look like, etc. So I think we are embarking on a multi-year process that will reshape first the country of Israel, and then, if successful, the entire power structure in the Middle East. For Trump and for Biden, whoever wins, or if there's a third person, yes, whoever it is, the crown jewel remains the same. Normalization between Israel and Saudi Arabia, and creating the economic framework between India, Saudi Arabia, Jordan, Israel, and through Israel into Europe. That is essentially how you create a situation where three of America's biggest enemies, China, Russia, and Iran, all get a big death blow. The Indo-Pacific Economic Framework, the IPEF, that goes through India, that was just proposed in the G7. That basically renders the Belt and Road Initiative useless. So that is a huge win for the United States and its allies, because it keeps the First Island chain blocking China, and it will keep it as a very important hegemony in Asia, but never more than that. Russia has its own corridor that it's built through Syria in English, sorry, and that gets a big blow. And of course, if Israel gets to normalize with Saudi Arabia, those are the three major religions legitimizing each other. That's a huge death blow to jihad and like holy war, religious war, becoming a martyr, everything that Iran sends other people to die on its behalf, but never sends anyone that's actually Iranian to die, because they're superior to all the other Arabs and Muslims in their mind. So and whoever does that also gets the Nobel Peace Prize alongside Mohammed bin Salman and whoever is prime minister for Israel. So that is the crown jewel. And we have to realize America is not going to give that up. No president is going to give that up. In fact, it was so important to Biden that he didn't just tell Saudi Arabia, hey, just join the Abraham Accords. That'll be easy. He doesn't want to do that because that'll give the credit to Trump. And
political.
It's comical, political, but it's also costing lives. On the flip side, if he is able to get it done either in this term or if he wins in his other term, that's basically the legacy, the big legacy. It's going to change the entire world, essentially. So the big prize is still there, but now Israel really has to come through. It has to secure all of its borders. It has to do most of the heavy lifting alone, because that's what the world wants to see. Saudi Arabia and all of the Emirates and the other countries that are in the Abraham Accords want to see that, hey, this is not Ukraine. This is not a country that is 100% dependent on U.S. assistance. It's a country that can take care of itself. It's a strong ally in the Middle East, and that's what we're doing. So this is going to take it's going to take time, but we have to understand the enemy. The enemy is not a rational actor. It's not a country that you deal with concessions. This is it's very hard to explain to a Westerner, because in America, state and religion are like this.
Yep.
And also in Europe, since the industrial age, it's like this. But in Islam, especially in radical Islam, the imam or the religious leader is the state.
Yes.
Politicians do the bidding of the religion.
Yep.
So it's hard to explain it. That's why you see like an Elon Musk just did a podcast with Lex Friedman, one of the biggest podcasts in the world, and you listen to him, and he's like giving you advice, which is just, it's good for Silicon Valley, but it's not the Middle East. That's not how you talk here. And then you hear like European countries, they want like a ceasefire because all they care about is, hey, winter's coming.
Right.
They need oil, so they don't want Iran to do something in the Hormuz Straits. But here in the Middle East, I can tell you, we came here after 2,000 years of exile. We think in terms of eternity. We don't think in terms of, hey, what's the next month going to look like? How do we secure the border for eternity?
Yeah.
And I can tell you, Iran, which is a country that's been there for 2,500 years and has never lost a grain of sand, they're thinking the same thing. They're thinking in chess, and in chess, there's one winner, one loser. It's a zero-sum game. There's no concessions. So this is going to take a while, and I think people need to understand this is part of the bigger theme that is happening in the world, where the world is breaking up into two blocks, and those blocks are built on not just economics but also values. So countries that share the same values are going to trade with each other, even if it's a bit more expensive. They're going to trade with each other because they can depend on each other. Because what Russia showed Europe is, when I need to, I'm going to just cut all the oil, cut all the natural gas from you guys.
Yep.
And other countries are going to do it to other countries. So the dependency of globalization is over. We're moving into value-based globalization, which is more expensive because you're not going into third world countries and just using the arbitrage of cheap labor. You're going into where you can depend on the government on the other side because you share the same point of view on life. So that's the world we're moving into. And what's nice about it is that you have two superpowers that are really not imperialistic. The United States in 1945 could have easily, on a snap of a finger, ruled the entire world. And China for 5,000 years has been around, and its grand failure is that it's tried to build a wall and just protect itself, and not have anything to do with the world. So we have two very non-inquisitive superpowers, and that's really good because, as you know, the Muslims for 1400, until they were stopped at the gates of Vienna, and until they fell apart in 1924, they're the biggest colonizers in human history. Like they beheaded and they killed 250 million people before there was ever a rifle with swords.
Yes.
So you're talking about a very colonizing. Yeah, you're talking about a very colonizing culture, and of course the USSR after World War II, it kept occupying Poland and until Eastern Germany, etc. And they wanted to rule entire Europe if they could have. So you have those are colonizers. Of course, colonization happened with other European countries that wanted to be more imperialistic, but China and the United States are not. They're just thinking, how can we build a world where we can both coexist? And of course, the United States has the upper hand in so many levers, but there's a new lever to be pulled, which is AI. And if China can become a real player in that, then this can disrupt the hegemony of the United States. But I'm talking 50, 60 years forward. But for sure, right now, the big thing to do is for Israel to secure its borders on every which way and show to its neighbors that if they try to shake the sovereign country, then they will have to pay a huge price, and that is basically how you talk in the Middle East.
Yeah. Well, thanks for sharing all that, Lior. I have actually witnessed and I agree with you. I see globalization kind of slipping away. We've seen nationalism on the rise in some countries based on some of the latest elections. When I say nationalism, sometimes people use that in a negative connotation. I'm not
Conservatism.
That would, yeah. Italy, Brazil had a very close election. There's been some others. And then just a reminder, my audience, I did retire from the U.S. Army. I served in the Middle East for 3.5 years. I fought in the Afghanistan war. I know a lot about what you're talking about fighting an enemy that is not afraid of death. Maybe
it worships them.
Maybe even invites it, right? So yes. I stand on the side of Israel because I look at I look at the Hamas terrorist organization as just that, a terrorist organization that will not stop until the country of Israel is completely gone. And how do you negotiate with somebody that just wants you to disappear completely? You don't. So,
right.
And then also as a soldier, the first priority of work is always security. So I completely understand Israel's need to secure its borders and to obviously posture itself to continue the work with Saudi Arabia and India that you mentioned. That we were creeping towards before October 7th. So yes. Thanks for sharing that with us, Lior. And obviously, a lot of people are behind the Israeli people and wishing you guys the best.
One thing I want to add, just 1 minute.
Sure, go ahead.
It's important to understand, because you see it in colleges and marches everywhere. When you say Free Palestine or anything about Palestine, it has to be understood fully, the fallacy of it. So there has never been a Palestinian nationality or identity. It doesn't exist. There have been pilgrims that have been coming to this area of the world for 2,000 years. None of them has ever shaken the hands of a Palestinian. There is no such thing. There have been Arabs and Muslims and Druze and Turks and Syrians and Egyptians, and there have been Christians and Jews, but there is no such thing as a Palestinian. It is a made up group. It was made up during the British Mandate.
Yes.
When after War I, when the British received mandate to rule over this area of the world called Palestine by the Roman Empire. After they expelled the Jews from here, they wanted to rewrite history, just like other empires have done. So it's not something new. And they said, instead of calling this Judea, let's call it something else. There was a tribe called the Philistines that came from the Cretes, the Crete island in Greece, and were traders on the same area that the Gaza Strip is today, basically. And so they called this area Palestine. But just so we're understanding, at that point, there was a Nazi religious leader in Jerusalem called Haj Amin al-Husseini, a great friend of Hitler. And he realized that if he doesn't create some sort of a movement for the Arab community that settled in what was then British Mandate, but before that in the Ottoman Empire, then they would not further any end. So even though they have no coinage, no songs, no religion, no folklore, nothing. They have nothing. They have, like, if you want to write the history of Palestinian people, it will be just a one-pager, empty.
Yeah.
It would look like this. So he came up with it. He got obviously all of the Muslims in the area to rally him, because the only thing they like less than lies is Jewish people coming back to the homeland. Yeah. And so that's how it happened. So that's one thing. Now, these flags that you see in all the marches,
oh yeah,
that's the PLO flag. The PLO flag is Yasser Arafat's flag.
It's a political organization.
It's a political national organization, not even a religious organization, formed in 1964. And we have to realize that is like holding a Hamas flag. It's just another terrorist organization. It's not a Palestine flag. It's an organization, literally. Okay, so I just wanted to clarify that because these people kill each other.
Oh, I know.
They're not. Yes. They're not a people. Nobody. It's not reported, but like in Syria, Assad has been killing hundreds of thousands of his own people.
Oh yeah,
going on in Iraq. Okay. Yeah. So, anyways, it's just important because the left, the radical left, wherever it exists, it always originates from the same thing. All radical left is an expression of hatred towards self-inaptitude. When you feel inept and that the only solution to your problems is getting better at something, some people say, instead of getting better, let me just blame an oppressor.
It's the victim-oppressor mindset. It
is not new.
Yeah,
it is not new. Yep. And so it's the big bad oil guys that are polluting the environment, and it's the white man. It's this. It's that. It's everything but yourself. And it's very easy to create a movement around that because hatred is the most powerful feeling that anyone has apart from love.
It's the quickest way to get somebody to rally around something is to create
absolutely. Yep. So we have to realize that. We have to also realize that China, Russia, Iran, they all understand the weakness of the radical left in the West, and they create propaganda campaigns for this. If you don't understand that these are the people that are funding those useful idiots, then it's important that you know that it is all funded, and it's very important to understand the threat of this.